Okay, Amitofo, it's good to see you all here. And we'll start with a vow. And before great vows, vow, for great vows, I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all. We continue on with this kind of rolling that I was talking about last week. And the idea here in terms of rolling is this rolling of the Dharma and looking at the Dharma. And it's very interesting because as we're rolling and we're looking at the Dharma, we see things from the apparent reality truth, and it rolls into the absolute reality. But as it rolls into the absolute reality, everything begins to fade. And because in the absolute reality, these appearances, while they're appearing, while we intend to deliver sentient beings, they nevertheless are absorbed into the absolute. But the part that rolls back is that as bodhisattvas, we come back here to do this again and again. This is our vow. And this was a major change in terms of how things were practicing. And before I start on what I intended to speak of, I wanted to just go over something from very early on in in Buddhism, and it is from the Astasasrika Prajnaparamita Sutra, or the Asta Sutra, or the Sutra of 8,000 lines. And it's very interesting in terms of talking about this, and this will give you an idea of this. And this idea I'm mentioning rolling, where we see things in terms of this reality, but we also see that it's a dream. But we are rolling in this dream, and this part, there's a part, and this is taken from a book called The Dawn of the Bodhisattva Path, the early perfection of wisdom. And all year long, I've been teaching from the Asta Sutra and this early perfection of wisdom, which was right at the cusp in the first and second century BC, coming out and formulating this sutra, Asta Sutra. Its progeny, what it gave birth to, was up to the 100,000 line sutra. And during the part here, they're talking about a recension in the sutra. Recension happens quite often in sutra, so I'm giving you a little bit of a background on that, where later interpretations and translations of the sutra incorporate information that wasn't there in the initial sutra, or they put it in a little bit clear way, or a spin there that happens. We see that a lot in the early conversion from the Nikayas to the Agamas, where the Nikayas were Theravada, and the Agamas were the same literature, but took a little bit different spin in it in terms of working on it, and the Agamas then became more palatable to the Mahayana class of sutras. And so here, in the sutra, it said, let me read a little bit to you. And it's talking about bodhisattvas. And you have to follow along with this in terms of what they're saying. They're saying they make up their minds that one single self shall we tame, one single self shall we lead to final nirvana. So one single self shall we tame, one single self shall we lead to final nirvana. What do you think? Is this the way that we practice? I know you don't have to answer it, but what appears to be different here? Now, let me read the rest of it to you. Give me a second. I need to change the light setting here. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I'm going through the disco. Oh. Come on. Trying to find the bright setting without anything else. Apologize for this. There we go. Maybe that will work. It's just the printing is very, very fine here. Really, really fine. So okay, here we go. This is the next line. A bodhisattva should certainly not in such a way train himself. So you shouldn't train yourself in this way. So they're showing and saying, what was this type of training that is being mentioned here? What are the distinguishing from it? And some of you probably will figure it out, but it's the difference between a practice that's leading towards nirvana and saving the self versus a Mahayana practice. And so he's saying, if the sutra is saying, if you practice this way, then it's not going to be that beneficial, because this is now in the asta, the everything is on the work of a bodhisattva. And so it says, on the contrary, he should train himself thus. My own self I will place in suchness, in a true way of things, and so that all the world might be helped. I will place all beings into suchness, and I will lead to nirvana the whole immeasurable world of beings. So, and the references to the perfection of wisdom in 8,000 lines. And so it's this text here says, the bodhisattva generates infinite compassion, and with all his acts are directed towards helping others. And here there is I'll read you the initial quotation that was in the Asta Sutra, and then how there was a recension to it. And you'll see a little bit different, but it still maintains the same flavor. So the one in the original translation was, when a bodhisattva looks at suffering of the world, he has great grief. When he surveys the countless beings with his mind's eye, he is not negligent or idle. And because he is not negligent, he attains this practice of perfection of wisdom. At the time, he will have the thought of exceedingly great gratitude, recollecting the omniscience of the Buddha. He does not stand in a sign, nor does he stand in some other sign. So it's essentially, there is, just like in the dwelling place of Manjusri, there is no dwelling place of Manjusri, but there's no place that Manjusri is not. And so it's nor O Subhuti, the wisdom of the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, is exceedingly bright. Now then the recension made it a little bit clearer, and it says, this is the recension, great compassion takes hold of him, referring to a bodhisattva. He surveys the countless beings with his heavenly eye, and what he sees fills him with great agitation. And he attends to them with the thought that I shall become a savior to all these beings. I shall release them from all of their suffering. And here, essentially referring to this awareness, and this is very important, as Dao Xin had said, that one must maintain this mind of awareness. It's very, very important in terms of this, and this was parroted by Hong Ren, the fifth patriarch, and it is this maintaining this mind of awareness, which is maintaining the Buddha mind, maintaining the proper perception, not the perception from the five skandha. So then it continues. But he does not make either this or anything else into a sign into which he becomes partial. Sign here is any appearance. So he doesn't make it into something saying that he becomes partial or differentiating or discriminating about it. It is just the suchness of the mind. This is not very easy for us to recognize this kind of a suchness of the mind. But it's important for us, and that's again this rolling into the absolute. So here we're dealing with in the samsaric world of delivering sentient beings, and it rolls into the absolute where it says there's no sign there. This also is the great light of a bodhisattva's wisdom, which allows him to know the full enlightenment. And again, the references to the 8,000 line sutra. And I want to read the commentary to this, which is, this last point is crucial. Bodhisattva's deeds and attitudes are sealed with the perfection of prajna. They're sealed with the perfection of wisdom. This is why I spent the whole year really hitting on this. This seal is this rolling into the absolute, so that one doesn't say, oh, I am delivering sentient beings. There is an understanding that I am delivering sentient beings of an illusory or impermanent nature. So we don't cling to signs. And it says, a bodhisattva does not carry out his infinite great and compassionate deeds. Consider that there is any ultimately inherently existing being who is helped. So it's referring, saying, the understanding here is that it is done naturally in accordance with the true nature of mind, the suchness. And this is the part that's difficult for us, and this is the part that really rarely gets taught, because it's so how would we say, difficult to present, and words cannot get you there, but the practice can get you there. And that's what's important, is that you have to begin to practice in a way in which that will you'll be able to understand what that means. It's not easy, and you have to be patient, but it comes in this way where we begin to see this, and this is the seal of the perfection of wisdom. So the perfection of wisdom talks about wisdom, but it is in your actions that seals it. It is in that realization that precisely what you're doing in this moment, precisely what is happening around you, is all in accordance with mind. And this understanding enables us to come to a realization, and that realization is demonstrated in the present moment in our body, speech, and mind. This is the ceiling of this perfection of wisdom. It is not enough just to know the wisdom, knowing the wisdom in words and phrases. One has to reach the point of a gnosis. I've mentioned this word many times because it is the bridge between um, the sentient cognition and the awareness of the mind itself. And when we can make that bridge, then there is the realization of mind and realization of the function of mind, and that function of mind then goes back. It's like a wave coming over and putting you over to this shore, but then as it recedes, it takes this wisdom and it proceeds to demonstrate it in the present moment, moment to moment to moment. This is the ceiling of it. There is not the idea Gilbert is ferrying people across, or I will ferry all of these people across in that way. But yet, the demonstration of that wisdom is one that articulates that to others in a way where they cannot hold on to anything to try to support the self. And that was the part that was mentioned in the first one, is that if you say, I have this self that will deliver other selves, or I will deliver myself to nirvana, then it's incomplete. The most that you can become is an arhat, Chinese alohan. But here was this turning of the Dharma wheel to bring us to the idea of that that in Mahayana, the Bodhisattva is the principal guiding force in terms of the practice, and it is in the dhyana, Chan, and Chan is not a noun, it's a verb. It's the doing of something. And so this, irregardless of what level you're at, should still be understandable that it's in this doing part that that we do things with, and that's important. So I wanted to bring this because I'm bringing you from the very first part of the year with this perfection of wisdom, and now it's beginning to get to a point where you can begin to realize something out of this. Now, I'm going to go to my what I intended to talk about today, and this was a continuation of what was happening to me in the last week or the week before that, where I was having these kind of very strange dreams, and so I want to talk about the second dream that I had, but I need to kind of roll into it literally. This word roll seems to come up in different meanings lately for me, but I want to roll. But this time, what I want to do is I want to roll back into the past. And then after I roll back into the past, I'll roll forward and tell you the dream that I had. But then it will begin to make more sense. Otherwise, it will just seem like a very bizarre dream. So I have a memory of an old Simon and Garfunkel song. And as I get older, I start realizing people don't have a memory that goes back that far because they were never born at that time. No. And so, Simon and Garfunkel, 1968, 1969. How many of you raise your hands if you were even born before 1968? Raise your hand. Yeah, Harry, you're as old as the Buddha, so I know that. So yeah, a few. Suzanne's there, so she went through that, but not a whole lot. Ernest is there, much less, you know, was 18 years old at that time, and so this song is an interesting song. It's called Punky's Dilemma. Now, I'll ask and see, strain remember. Does anybody remember a song of Simon and Garfunkel called Punky's Dilemma? So it's interesting, and you might want to play it sometime. You'll see it's kind of like a quaint song. Um, but there's a line in the song, and this is kind of little beat type thing. And forgive me for trying to sing it, but it goes, I wish I was a Kellogg's cornflake floating in a bowl, taking movies, relaxing a while, living in style. And that opening verse to this song really, in some ways, it troubled me because it's such a cool little song, of somebody. And remember, it's called Punky's Dilemma, but it's saying, I wish I was a Kellogg's cornflake floating in a bowl taking movies. Like in that time, we didn't have cell phones to take movies. We'd have like cameras that you would do and relaxing a while, living in style. So you relax a while and you're living in style. And I went, something's about this song. And in part, this song was kind of like an anti-war song, but even then, Paul Simon's lyrics were a little bit probably dated now because the next line after Living in Style is talking to a raisin that occasionally plays LA. So it's a little bit racist in that way, but at that point, he was trying to show how cool he was in terms of, being hip with things. Now it probably doesn't sound that way. Uh, but it's something in terms of this that didn't bother me as much. Although I saw it there, it didn't bother me as much as is that does that really sound like um, Nirvana? Does anybody know what the problem is with being a a cornflake floating in a bowl taking movies? Anybody have an idea? Nobody? We'll get to that in a moment. It's very interesting. Oh, okay. Shloka wants to try it. I know that Sentha wasn't feeling good, so I don't know if she's there to. Oh,
You
there
can
she is.
mute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Just to try, then the conflict is just watching and not doing.
Okay. It's deeper than that, but that's not. I mean, that's part of the thing, and that I think probably was part of what Paul Simon was mentioning in terms of his social consciousness of that somebody is watching and not doing anything; they're just taking movies. But yeah, that takes us about halfway. All right, Suzanne, you have a go ahead.
Well, um, there's also the danger of being eaten.
That's right. That's right. Because your function is to be digested. So it's not that cool. You're sitting there in ignorance, thinking, "Oh, I'm taking movies." Oh, let me see the dog, the pup. We got a new puppy. Take a picture of him. Take a picture of him. You know. But it there's that part of it that's very very important, and it's very Zen, very Chan in it. Okay, Harry, what you got to say?
Well, two things. One, cornflakes get soggy, and most importantly, he's wishing. He's trying to be someplace where he isn't. He wishes he
Yeah,
was. I mean, that to me is the biggest tell.
Would you say he was dreaming?
It certainly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, guys. Let me continue on. But you're kind of getting an idea how this applies to Chan, and so and that's Punky's dilemma. And so it says, um, so I said, this was the dawning of my coming of age mentally, physically, probably sexually, politically, metaphysically. Um, and I used to always wonder about the meaning of this song, and it seemed like a cool lyric, kicking back um, and enjoying playing music, and then it said, and I just thought, oh, this is cool, you know. Um, but um, I asked myself at the time, did I want to be a white cornflake floating in a bowl taking movies? And and so it reminded me of a scene in a movie called The Graduate. Have have any of you seen the movie The Graduate? Raise your hand. It's like carbon dating some of you. Some of you are probably film noir experts, you know, and want to see the movies. Anya, you saw it too? Okay. All right. It's interesting. If you haven't seen the movie, please see it. It's worth the while to see it. And it's about this young man coming out of college with no direction, and he's just like lying in a pool, completely oblivious, has no direction as to what he's doing, and he's just there in the pool having nowhere to go, nothing to do, and he's just literally floating in life at that point. So it is a very uh, meaningful movie where people are looking at it and what they're going to do. It's very interesting because he's white and he's a cornflake in floating there. Um, there's not that much mention of the Vietnam War that was raging, and all the minorities were literally being shipped overseas. Okay, and that's my political 60s movement, no, coming out in me. Um, and it says, one has to understand the milieu of what was happening in the world when this song and movie, The Graduate, came out. And The Graduate came out a few months, so they were very close in time. And the first line grabbed me because it sounds so alluring to be there. We can understand his dilemma in the context of the political environment. I just mentioned that. And then this was a time when I had gone away. You know, in 1968, I got an offer to go to UCLA. And then 2 weeks later, I was at UCLA. And here's this kid from a small town all of a sudden going to one of the, you know, the hot places for political consciousness. And and what was interesting and how it ties into me was that in the dorms, when you're 18 years old, when you see what's on the walls of a 18-year-old who's away from home, away from parental eyes, what would they put on their walls? So, Ernest, did you go away to college? Yeah. But anyway, and you know, I'm sure Harry did because he's like Mr. Scholastic. He's very intelligent, so I'm sure he went. And what would you have on your walls in your dorm room? You know, most people would have Playboy pinups. Well, this is the men. Um, and or the blacklight paintings or paintings of a Jimi Hendrix or a rock and roll band or whatever psychedelia that they would have on the wall, some kind of a like a snake or something that's effervescent or phosphorescent, I should say. But I had found this poster, and it was a poster of that famous painting, Japanese painting, probably the most famous Japanese painting of its time, called The Wave. So how many of you have heard of The Wave? Yeah, pretty much everybody has that. And I thought, wow, this is cool. I love this, and even at that time, I already had this interest in Asian culture and anything um, that was related to that. And this picture below had a saying, and I thought it was so cool. I didn't really know completely what it meant, but it was cool sounding. It said, I am like a wave that ever goes rolling. I'm rolling all day and yet not rolling at all. How apropos for my lecture on rolling. And I used to love that, but then later on I went, something's wrong with this. But I even long past I had taken that picture down, I actually kept it for, I don't know where it's at now, but I'm sure if I look around my house, I might still have it. But I never forgot the saying. And then one day after I'd been presenting Buddha Dharma for a while, I went, that's it. That's what's wrong with this saying. And it's, you take the I out of it, because there's no I in ocean and there's no I in sea. Sorry, that's like a thing that everybody talks about in sports. There's no I in team, but there's no I in the ocean and there's no I in the sea. So it should read, like the waves that ever go rolling, they're rolling all day, but yet not rolling at all. There's no I there. And that's an important thing. This is rolling this from the idea of samsara and this apparent world, and rolling it into the absolute and making a statement within samsara that points to the absolute. The other one just points to the self. But when we do this in the right way, it works. And this is what was being said in that part of the Asta Sutra where I just read it to you, was that it's ever going rolling, but it never delivers any sentient being. Even though it delivers sentient beings, there's no sentient beings to deliver. And that's the part that's tough for us. That's the part for us we don't understand that. We can't understand it. We can't understand it. We have to seal it with perfected wisdom to be able to understand that. When you do, then you can see the difference between I am like a wave that ever goes rolling or like a wave that ever goes rolling. There's movement, but yet there's not movement. Where is it going to move to? Where did the ducks fly to? Where could they fly to? And so you see, it's very, very simple. It's incredibly wonderful. And what it does, it opens this heart of wisdom and great compassion, just like it mentioned in the Asta Sutra. The more we sincerely contemplate this, the more we get to the realization of what this means, and transcend the idea of the words and phrases. We truly cannot go anywhere that we aren't already. But where are we? We don't dwell in any place, just like Manjusri. Even though it appears that these waves are rolling and we see rises and falls and everything. But if you're the ocean, what possibly could be going up and down? You can shrug your shoulders, put them up and down, and put them up and down. But that's just the body of the Buddha. When we can realize that, then we can do some work. We really can do some really good work here with this body. And that was what Mahayana from the very beginning began to offer, is salvation, present salvation, in the form of ekayana, that just this mind is the Buddha mind, and a purpose, a wonderful purpose, and a wonderful caring. When we transcend this idea of helping others into allowing it to manifest via suchness, it really pays off great dividends, much more than when we try to harness our self and perfect ourself. Just like the part in the Asta Sutra saying, if you try to do it this way, this is not the way to do it. What you do is you harness mind. You already have mind. We don't realize that. When we can understand it, then we understand that this place that we're in, it's a burning building. And we want to help others. We don't care about ourselves anymore. If I die here, I come back in a new body. This is the conviction. There's no fear of any finishing of Gilbert. The only fear I have is that I have not done enough in this lifetime to advance this precious Dharma. And it is very precious. And it's an interesting thing, because as I begin to think about things, sometimes, you're you look at it and go, is this really there? Is this really the way it is? But little by little, I don't have those kinds of thoughts. I don't have those kind of Catholic thoughts of worrying about if I'm right or wrong. My heart presents that to me. And it's very, very important that we understand that this heart is very incredible, because it is a bridge. It is what I talked about last week, the Amrita. It is the bridge that works with the wisdom to develop compassion. And from this side, there's always questions. From the other side, the only question is, what next will I do to awaken people, awaken them? Even though I know that this is a dream, but it matters. It's important that we begin to understand in this way how we see things. Now, going back to that cornflake that was floating in the bowl, again, you've figured out that the danger is that cornflake doesn't understand that he is going to be consumed. And that's something that's very important to understand and realize. To us, it is that, just like Master Sheng said, we only have a finite amounts of breaths that we take. What we do with those breaths is what is important. So what do you do with your breaths? And so when you understand it, and that was Punky's dilemma, was sitting there just relaxing a while, living in style. Life is good, right? But it still finishes. And so it's important for us to understand this, to realize this, and realize that we have to practice in a way that makes this life worth it, that makes this life something of value, rather than just simply looking at old movies of families and friends. I'm not telling you to throw away your family photos or anything else. I'm just saying that that belongs to samsara. This you will not take with you when you pass away. But what you've done via body, speech, and mind will be most certainly what continues on. And so when you understand it, then you understand that we have to see that. We have to wake up to this. I don't know, can you guys hear my dog barking? All right. I think he's trapped somewhere. Give me 1 minute and I'll be right back. I'm sorry about that. Where did he get trapped in, huh? Let's go up and find him. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. He went into my room and the wind blew and locked him in there. So he's not supposed to be in my bedroom. So anyway, we continue on. I just realized I haven't told you the dream. So let me tell you the dream. It was a very strange dream. The dream was a dream that I dreamed. I know it's going to be very strange to you. I dreamed that I was on a Chinese combo platter. That I was one of the entrees there. I'm not sure what I was, but I was there on the plate, realizing it wasn't good for me to be on the plate, because sooner or later I was going to be consumed. And I wonder, I never thought of looking at myself to see what entree I was, because it had just been put down. But right when the dream started, I'm going, oh shoot, I'm on a Chinese combo plate and I'm going to be eaten. So I need to get off this plate. And how am I going to do that? Because I was trying to find out a way that I could get off the plate. And then I looked around the plate, searching what's there, and I saw a white rice roll. Very strange, because it was just a pure white rice roll, nothing else, pure as driven snow. nothing inside of it. And I went, this is the way out. This is the way out. I'm going to roll this over to the edge of the platter. I know it's a dream, remember. Okay. I'm going to roll this over to the edge of the platter. And then I went and I kind of, off of the platter, I rolled it and I tilted it over the edge of the platter. And I went, I can shimmy myself down the roll. So, so then I got on the roll and started trying to shimmy myself down the roll down to the table so I could make my escape. But as I was doing that, then the roll started crumbling and it could not sustain my weight. And so it just made a mess. And I was not able to escape. And then I woke up, which is a very strange dream. But again, it was like, where did the spare ribs go? They're on the side of the table. How can you explain that? Well, who knows? But why is the rice all scattered all over the place? And to me, this kind of meant this is that, and again, this is a rolling aspect of this, and that's that when we try to imagine what is not there, how can we do that? And so trying to save yourself from there, just like the first verse that I read, where they were talking about the one that's seeking nirvana and saving the self, that's as useless as that. We cannot save ourselves in this way. The self is non-existent. The plate is non-existent. It's all a dream. But yet we are constantly trying to save ourselves, more importantly, save our ego. How many times have you stood up for your ego, right? It always gets you into trouble, and then you have to stand up for it. Like, who did that? I when my kids were young, I had one child I never gave birth to, but he was always there when something happened. Who did this? And they would all say, not me, not me. So I must have a child that's named not me. And the thing is that we always do this with our ego. But this weird dream was showing two things. One, we cannot be saved in this lifetime. You, in this way, are not immortal. This Amrita that we were talking about last week is the immutable aspect of the mind itself. The idea of us clinging to that absolute is also useless because we cannot go out that way, dragging our ego off the plate. It won't work. It is this function of rolling and rolling and rolling with it, rolling with what Master Dao Shin said, to see the nature of things. It's very interesting how he said that. He just said we just have to see and be in accord with the nature of things. And then we understand that. Why? Because everything is mind, everything's created by mind via pratika samappada, causes and conditions never fail. So we let go of this idea of trying to reach for something, trying to save this. And we set our sights on sealing this perfected wisdom. In there's no fear. and there's no confusion. Truly, this is the practice, and it's one that, as I mentioned to you, all this year is what I'm trying to offer to you is this wonderful perfected wisdom. The wisdom does not come fully assembled. It comes like in a kit that you have to put together piece by piece by piece. And you have this piece and this piece and this piece, and then they come together. And it's that way. One time I had a dream where the whole night pieces of I was putting together a puzzle, but each piece was a piece of Dharma, something impermanence, emptiness, suffering, whatever it was, all these different pieces that were fitting there. And I would see them rolling, and then they would go down, and I couldn't see where they were placed, but they would fit. And then another piece would come. For the whole night, didn't matter if I woke up, if I went back to sleep, I would still maintain putting the pieces in. What was very interesting at the very end of the night was that I finally was able to see the picture, and it was a mandala. And the last piece fit there. It became this very beautiful pattern of a mandala. I can still see it in my eyes. And very funny, I ran into the same motif when preparing for another class and saw these mandalas there. And I'm going, that's what I was seeing, these very beautiful patterns. And so it's in this way that we practice, and then what happens is the mind, it will teach you. It's your mind anyway, so why wouldn't it teach you? So you have to begin to kind of understand and roll with this. Don't try to grasp the Dharma. Roll with it. Let it come and go, up, down, up, down. It doesn't matter. It's just how it works. If you can do this, then you will understand how to practice. This is the seal of the perfection of the wisdom, is the actual processing of practicing, putting it into the present moment. And as one does that, this present moment, before when I first started, I kept it, I guarded it. It had to be the very sharpest pinpoint of time. So I had to be there. So even if I heard a car go by, it would not sound like wrong. It would be like wrong. Every moment of that car passing was very integrated, but separated, and it was more like a digital compilation of the sound. But then it changed, and I realized that was the initial practice of maintaining awareness of the mind. Once one maintains the awareness of the mind, then the awareness spreads. It still hears things in that same way, but this awareness spreads. And if you just let the mind act naturally as it is, what happens is all of this, like shining up a piece of silver, all this dross that's on there will go away, and there will be this brightness there. And just like the sun must have crust, but it nevertheless doesn't interfere with the powerful light rays that emit from it. And it is the same way in terms of our practice. We don't have to push anything out. We don't have to get anything there. We just have to do things in a very natural way. So in this very profound, it is very simple. we make it complicated by overthinking it, or thinking even worse than that, this is too deep, I don't even want to try to do that. I hear that quite a few times from people, that say, oh, it's just too much, it's too deep, I just I'd rather be devotional. It's okay, that's fine, and everybody has their way. But if you want to really know how to use this thing, then um, we have to know how to perfect the wisdom. We have the wisdom, we just have to perfect it. Perfecting the wisdom is knowing how to use it and using it. That's the most important part, is using this wisdom moment to moment to moment. So that was my dreams and weird parts, and you went on a trip back to the 60s, but I hope this was helpful to you. So I'll take some questions now. Harry, go ahead.
Hi, Gilbert. You covered all the food groups. You did cornflakes and you did rice. That was that was great. So I got one sort of comment and then a question. The comment, so when you were talking about compassion and not being dissuaded and not being afraid, I just thought I'd mention people might not have heard of Pyalden Gyatso, who was the Tibetan monk who was imprisoned in Chinese prisons for 33 years. And, he was tortured a great deal. And they asked him if he was ever afraid. And he said the only time he was ever afraid was when he thought he might lose his compassion for his tormentors. So that's just a level of bodhicitta that is, you know, quite astonishing.
Yeah, I think that Sue brought him up in the conversation I had with him today. Was that the same monk that you were referring to, a group of monks? Sue? She's there.
No. It's not the same group. Same, not, well, they have like 4 main traditions, Tibetan tradition, but the one Harry talking about, I think it's the same tradition as the Dalai Lama, correct?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right. So
Is
it's a
it
different group.
Harry?
Because you were talking about a group that was
Yes,
stuck in China for a long time today.
yeah.
Oh, no, I was talking about Kamapa 17, 17th Kamapa. That, it's
Oh,
away from China, yeah.
Okay.
But it's a different tradition, not the same.
Okay. All right. It just it's kind of unusual because you were mentioning something and he's bringing it up, but that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. All right. What is
so
your next one?
the question was, you were talking about marks in the ashta, and just in terms of practice, one thing that's quite interesting is as you meditate, various things are presenting themselves to you, and when there are things that have to do with your open quotes progress in terms of time, in terms of stilling of the mind, whatever it is, it's a challenge to look at that as not as marks, right? Not to attach to what's actually what you're looking at as your supposed progress, which is another way of getting wrapped up in the self. And I was just wondering if you could comment on that and a way out.
Oh, absolutely. Harry, that to get to that is like a very high level of practice where all of a sudden, it's like, all right, you're there and you're high-fiving yourself, and that there's nothing around you, and that my gosh, you're so friggin' enlightened, and I'm not making fun of you. I'm just pointing to that because Mahabua uh, has this one part I've been holding back because it's so incredibly profound and deep that people wouldn't understand it. But even up until the last point where one sees this incredible light, that light still is the self. And so if all these other little things, these realizations, they come like that. And you're absolutely right. That's the way it works. And then people can become self-proclaimed enlightened, and that's like the worst thing you can do. A lot of people become self-proclaimed enlightened are simply people that have reached the state of unified mind. And they think they're now the cat's meow. They think they're really got it, but they don't. The way that we do that is, this is what all of the masters were talking about. And it's hard for us to understand this aspect of it, which is maintaining the mind of awareness. In maintaining the mind of awareness, truly, this is the very great practice, because the mind of awareness is the Buddha mind. When we maintain the mind of awareness, there is no discriminations, no differentiations. The mind is in a state of equipoise or equanimity. It receives information and it goes in and out, in and out. It's like a screen on a window. It doesn't block the wind going by, but it can sense it. But it doesn't need to block anything. It just understands this is the suchness of the mind, that everything that's appearing is not other than the mind. And so it then transcends even that kind of an idea of saying, this is mine. This is where I was mentioning, and this is important, is when one grasps the roll of white rice, pure white rice, you can't even grab that. You can't grab onto the purity or the mind itself. And that's when you're talking about that, that's what these last stages are at, where the mind is so quiet, but it's still, there's still the self there. And we cannot be fooled by that. It is why the perfection of the wisdom is so important, because it seals that. It seals that, not by way of covering it up or closing the window. It just seals it so that there is nothing separate between the screen and the wind. That the waves are moving, the ocean is still, but it's completely settled. And that's what comes from this perfected wisdom. We, as practitioners, are in the process of perfecting this wisdom. I'm so happy you brought that up, because it actually nailed a little bit more my point in terms of this, and trying to hang on to this purity. And that's what's happening when one is doing that. But you have to maintain this mind of awareness. Really carefully maintain it. Don't let it go one bit. Just it's there. You don't cling to it, but what you do is always stay aware. The awareness is not cogitation. It is contemplating what is arising until such time as there's not even contemplating. Even the contemplation goes away, then the mind is sealed. And sometimes it can be unsealed, and then you go back, and who am I to say, yeah, I got it 100%? It's like I'm there, and they go, you want a donut? No, a jelly donut. Nobody's looking, and you go, well, how fresh is it? Oh, it just came out of the oven. All right, I'll do it, So it unseals. And the mouth does too. But the thing is that when you do this and you try to keep it sealed, not by forcing it, because they say, one does not subdue the mind by force. It's very important. Fasang said that. But it is not by force. It is by this perfection of the practice. And so once we fall off the wagon, we just simply go back onto the wagon without thinking about anything more. We don't say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I fell off the wagon. We just go back on the wagon and go, I will keep practicing. And little by little, it works. It really, really works. But you've got to get rid of that cockroach that's on your shoulder that keeps telling you that it's you. You know, you, oh, just tell them I will deliver you in due time too. Right? Because that's exactly what you're doing when you're perfecting your practices. You're going to deliver. If you can't deliver yourself, who can you deliver? Think about it. Think about it. You want to deliver people and you can't even deliver yourself. It's very interesting, right? All of this is just rolling, rolling, rolling. It's really wonderful. Good question. Any other questions? Yes, Arvid.
My question was regarding something you mentioned about times when you ask yourself whether this is the way. And that is a question that I have had a few times recently. And the part where I struggle when those questions arise was how to remind myself or be aware again of the preciousness of the prana paramita. So my question is, how can I, so when such questions arise in terms of, is this the way, how can I remind myself or get back to the awareness of the preciousness of the practice?
You follow the practice, you follow the Buddhas in study. This is very, very important. You listen to lectures, you follow them in reading and finding the Dharma that rings to you, that makes sense to you. For instance, Harry, he found a great calling in the Lotus Sutra. And it's not the only one he reads, but he really found a calling for that. Different people will have different callings. Sometimes it's the Diamond Sutra, um, the Heart Sutra, but the 8,000 line sutra is the Heart Sutra as well. It's just advancing a little further with it and seeing it, and it was always there from the very, very beginning. So even though the Tathagata Garbha Sutras come and follow it, it's already all there. All they're doing is it's a further exposition of it. So you study sincerely with faith, and that's important. When you study sincerely with faith, all of the Dharma masters, they've all said it will come naturally to you. You don't have to look for it or do anything of this nature. You just simply have to be patient and to study sincerely. When you no longer are grasping for the meaning or for enlightenment or for some sign, because it's not a sign, then the mind is free. It's unobstructed. So what happens, it's like a kink in the hose, and you're kinking it saying, I want to do this, but you're saying that I want something good. I want enlightenment, or I want to have a realization or whatever. It's kinking the hose. As soon as you let go of that, there's no obstruction. Naturally, the mind will allow this incredible flow of Dharma, even to the point that in your sleep, it will present it to you because it's unhindered, and it will continue to flow even if your eyes are closed. So just have faith in that. In due time, it will work. It does work. That's the thing that I have to tell you, is that it is this way. Shifu told me that. The ancient masters write about it, and it is that way. It will come. And with somebody who is sincere, it cannot be suppressed. By nature, it will happen. So if you practice in this way sincerely and begin to to really pour over each line. Don't be in a rush to read a sutra. That's the worst thing that you can do. Be patient, and it will be there. It will be there because it's already there. It's already there. That's what makes it work, is because originally it was there before you. So you just have to go back to before the ignorance. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good. Anybody else? We still have time. Yes, Shloka.
Amitopo, Gilbert. I just
Amitopo.
wanted to share that last week and this week were two of my favorite lectures. I loved to hear you sing, and the theme of rolling is just so cool. Thank you for giving us a glimpse of how to see the Dharma from these different viewpoints, because we need to see it that way in order to share it with others and not get caught up in apparent contradictions and logic and science, because it's beyond that. And we need to have faith. And no, it's not like I can present the Dharma right now to anyone, even for 5 minutes, but when you present it to us, I don't know why I get so emotional sometimes, or if I'm over romanticizing it, but I feel like it just goes straight to the heart. And it's like it's not mind to mind, but it's heart to heart.
Mind to mind is heart to heart. It is this way, and what you're doing is you're listening with your heart, and you're listening for what you can use this in the future. And that's all I do is I just turn this diamond. I just keep turning it to different facets, and some of them ring very clearly to some people, and I turn it, and other people can look right through it and see it. And you just do this, and you find the expedient ways to be able to present the Dharma to others. This is sealing the wisdom, and without ever thinking that the wisdom is being sealed or this perfected wisdom. It is just how we do this. This is why they call it the mind seal. So when we understand that, then we begin to understand the term seal much different than what we thought it meant. And it is not in the confirmation by words and phrases and letters. It is in the demonstration. It's all in the demonstration of the practice. Every moment you're demonstrating the wisdom, the Dharma, and beyond the Dharma, simply to mind. The mind then is connected to the heart. And it is just as you're articulating now, you're, new to, let's say, the very deep Dharma, but in due time, you're younger than I am. So by the time you get to maybe 15 years younger than me, then you will be very accomplished. I think there's a lot of us who are old ones, I'm not pointing at anybody, but we all wish that we could have started even earlier than we did practice, Harry, how old were you when you met Shifu?
How old was I? Well, it was 1979, right? So I was 30.
30. So I always look at my time and say, I wish I had more time, and I'm kind of setting the dial, kind of twisting it in the future to reach coming into the Dharma earlier. So I spent a lot of time kind of going this way, but everything eventually was pointing towards the Dharma, and I knew that it was there. And then you set this dial with your vow from your heart in the next lifetime. It won't let you down. You'll keep coming back, and it will work. So keep this beginner's mind is very important, and this kind of an awe of the Buddha Dharma when you hear it. This is what really triggered Senta many years ago, and this awe and wonder, and she set her mind on to practice just like Harry has, and he's quite accomplished in terms of study. Same thing with Sue. I'm not going to say Sue's old, but same with her, you know. So she still has her hair. I don't have my hair. Her hair is still white. I mean, brown, excuse me. But I've actually seen Senta without any hair, where she goes into nun mode. So it's good. And so I apologize for that. I was thinking something and saying something else. But anyway, it is this way. You should rejoice in hearing this. It's good stuff, really. I'm very surprised at what I was saying today. I was listening along with you. Santa,
It's the next topic, Gilbert, when you're ready.
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to remind you about the fundraiser to announce it.
Oh, you wanted me to announce it?
Yes, please. Or should I?
Yeah, go ahead. You probably know better than I do.
Okay, so here's the fundraiser. We're trying to raise money for Gilbert's online presence as well as his, presence at retreats where it's not covered by the inviting organization. And Gilbert presence at Dharma, it's priceless and it's free, but it does take some money to get it to you. And we're trying to raise funds to cover this cost, and nobody's gonna get money. This is just including Gilbert. It's just for the cost, and we've estimated the cost for the upcoming year, and we'll stop the fundraiser as soon as we hit that budget. So please consider this an expression of your generosity and contribute.
Yeah, I want to add to that because sometimes I'm compensated by, if I'm doing a Dharma drum event, I will be compensated. Sometimes I'm not always compensated, and I certainly my assistant, which I need to attend to things because for instance, when I go um, in the end of November into December, I'm going to Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan, and have many different events. They don't cover her cost, and she has to cover it. And she's not like rich where she can cover those kinds of expenses or anything like that, or sometimes it's difficult for me even to get compensation to they'll say, well, you can stay at the wherever the temple is or things, but sometimes it's not so convenient, and those costs, they can add up over the course of a year. If I'm going to next year to London, Switzerland, Australia, and so covering the costs like that is sometimes not so easy, and it puts a lot of strain on some of the small venues where I go to, which are very precious, such as in Virginia, and for Michigan, and just cost of even supplies and things of that nature, or the Zoom, all of those things, or whatever we spend money on, it comes out of somebody's pocket. So I hope that you can sincerely think about that and help it so that we don't have to have that as a primary concern as to what we're doing. Without Esther, I couldn't set up these places and go to the different venues I go, and she squeezes so many in to different things and spends all the time doing that and has to accompany me. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to go next. And so I'm just like a record player that she just takes me to venues and and then I start playing. But she has to figure out how we're going to get there, where we're going to stay, where we're going to eat, whatever. And it does take a lot of pressure at this point for us to do that. And again, it's just something that is is difficult. No, and so hopefully you can help out and so that we don't have to keep that as a primary problem in terms of things. So if you feel like you've been getting some good dharma, it's worth it. I I had heard that from one place that they didn't they weren't so much interested, for instance, in Westerners and inviting Westerners to come. And they said, "Well, how come?" And they go, "Because the Westerners they don't donate anything. They're too cheap, and so they don't let." But I don't think that that's the case. I mean, if people really understand and understand the reasons why, I think you could probably find out in your heart that if you dig in, there might be a couple of dollars that you can spend to try to do this. Again, this has nothing to do with me making money out of it. Actually, when I was working, every time I went to a retreat, it cost me $5,000 in income, my own income. Because that's what I lost going to different places. And if you figure how many places it was quite a bit of money. Now I'm retired, so I don't lose any money, but I'm not making any money either. but in any case, what I'm being paid back is tremendous. But I hope you can understand that. So sorry for putting in, a public broadcasting, spiel at the end of the thing. But Cynthia will tell you how we can do it.
I put the link that Michael's written up into the chat. Have a look. It's also available on Mighty Network. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So please, think about that. We need kind of a literally a rolling kind of a commitment to help out. When we get to 1 million, I'll tell you to stop. Okay. But we just want to make sure we're funded enough to make it through the end of this year and the year that's coming up. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Actually, I enjoyed doing this one today. I learned a lot. Okay, anything else? Anybody, any comments? We still have a little bit of time.
Gilbert?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking about the seal as being kind of the merging of understanding and actuality. I mean, I'm not sure quite how you put it. Well, how would you explain the ocean seal samadhi, the seal and ocean seal? I mean, what's your understanding of that?
I think even if I say the words, it's beyond the words, but I will try to explain that. In terms of that, it is the understanding that there's not even the ocean. Holding on to the ocean is like holding on to that white rice roll, coming off the plate. There's not anything you can grab onto. The seal is just understanding that it is ekayana, just this one mind. And so when we have just this one mind, then as I've mentioned to you, and you kind of have to get into the practice of this, is that it is mind without the words mind is where all this rolls to. So it isn't even the one. There's not even the one. It's where the one returns to, and that's where the mind has to be placed. It's there already. We just don't understand that. There's nothing for us to seal really, and this ocean seal samadhi is simply the mind of awareness, Harry. It is the same thing. It is the perfection of that mind of awareness, of being aware moment to moment to moment, just this mind. And so without even saying just this mind, it is just this mind of awareness. And it's hammered, literally hammered in the sutras. It's hammered in all of the five patriarchs about this. And for some reason we miss that, and we don't see the links. And when you look at the this wonderful Asta Sutra and its progeny, what sutras came out of it, what theories came out of it, and everything, you see it's all pointing to that. And so the seal is the perfection of your practice, to the point that there is not a practice, there's not a person practicing. It is just simply the resolution of mind in all time and all places. Everything is just that way.
Thank you.
So it's kind of hard to, because if we try to use some kind of a verbalization of it, or some definition of it, we kind of lose the essence of it. No, it is where you would stop, if you keep listening to, hey, you're doing really good, you haven't had a thought for a half an hour, an hour. One, if you even let go of that, then it will work. And so that's what I want you guys to begin to work through. In the Theravadan practice, they have a lot of methods of concentration to develop concentration. We don't have those methods in Chan Buddhism, so we don't have this kind of a stepping up to it, because in our practice we have the idea of subhatism, or sudden enlightenment. It is sudden, but it can take you quite a long time, and you don't have to be so presumptuous that you're going to become enlightened in this lifetime. But there's nothing holding you back from doing that. There's absolutely nothing right now that should be an obstruction to you realizing mind. And realizing mind, you don't have to worry about whether you're enlightened or not enlightened, because at that point, enlightenment is just a concept. It is the sealing of it by perfecting this wisdom, and when that wisdom is perfected, automatically it will resolve any questions that had been present before that. Okay, good questions. I mean, this is where you're getting to, getting right to it and pointing right at it. And again, it's difficult because we have to concentrate on maintaining this mind of awareness. We don't have any intermediate or beginning steps to practice it. For instance, in the Theravadan practice, they have the idea of looking at a kasina, like a white dot on a black background, or a red dot, something like that, where you can develop that ability to have a concentration, and then from there that will lead you to the samatha and vipassana. But with us, it is our directing the mind to the present moment and awareness. And again, as you'll find out, in directing the mind to the present moment is very expansive. But this is how we do it. And again, we've kind of lost that that idea of this primordial wisdom that's there. We've lost our ability to link to it. And this maintaining the mind of awareness is that link. And it links from samsara to the absolute. So it enables you to have one foot in each. And then that way, as it's there, you know, it's very easy as you straddle the two. You don't have to worry about which one am I in. As soon as that thought comes up, all is lost. But if you understand that it's all like Shifu was always saying, you're always swimming in mind, and then it will make sense. Again, little by little, these are repetitions, but they work, and you'll see it. Okay. Any other questions? No, we went on for a long time today. Okay. Then next week, we'll have a guest lecture, but it will be a worthy guest lecture. So we'll see you in probably a week after that. But we're kind of reaching a crescendo in terms of this practice of great perfection and leading to great compassion. Okay. So we will see you later. Thank you very much for attending and listening sincerely. Amitofo. So happy to see you. So you all take care.
Thank you.
And go with my blessing.